Hell yeah, congratulations. You took action in downloading the tool, not just with the interest of trying to price your jobs profitably, but you literally took the action. You raised your hand, you've got this in your hand, I hope right now, to improve your contracting business. So kudos out to you, because I gotta tell you, 80+% of contractors have too much pride, like I did, and they don't take action on things, even when help is provided. So, thumbs up. So what we're gonna do today, I'm gonna walk through that tool with you. I'm gonna walk you through it, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and I'm gonna give you the insights that you need to make sure that you understand these core areas. We're going to touch on break-even margin, break-even profit margin, margin conversion rate, and markup versus gross margin. Okay. Now, anytime I touch on any topic related to math, a lot of people like cringe. And listen, I was there. Okay, I still do it from time to time, but the reality is, it's really just division and multiplication for the most part, and subtraction and that's it. So you can learn this. You've learned way more complicated things than this, in the past, and it's absolutely critical for your business. I mean, you've got to ask yourself these questions, right? Do you know how to adjust your pricing based upon different cycles in your business? If you don't, then you really need to be able to. Do I know how to quote to ensure I'm profitable? Guys, if we can't ensure we're quoting to be profitable, then I'm going to tell you right now, then don't quote. If you got to quote tomorrow or the next day, I need you to get this before you do that, because you could literally be losing your shirt. And in some cases, I've seen businesses just from one job lose their business. Number 3, am I pricing for profits or poverty? Just making a profit isn't enough. You got to make the profits that's going to be able to give you the lifestyle that you want, okay? Obviously, making a profit is better than not, but we want to be able to set targets, be able to, adjust how we price jobs to optimize our profitability, to optimize our lifestyle, and what we can do with that, right? All right, let's get into step number 1. We need to determine, like we said, your break-even margin first. Now, your break-even margin, guys, just to make sure that we're clear here. Your break-even margin is the margin that you need to put on your quotes to break even. It's the amount of margin you got to put on your quotes that is not going to make you profits, but it's not going to make you lose profits. It, in essence, is the percentage of margin that you've got to put on your jobs based upon how much overhead expenses you have, based upon your annual sales, for you to ensure that you're covering what's called your overhead expenses. Okay? Your overhead expenses are things like your hydro, your bell. I mean, they don't care whether or not you do a sale, you make a sale or not. The lease companies that you're dealing with, right? You got to pay them. They don't care if to a certain degree, it's not their problem if you don't make a sale. You still have to pay the bills. So these are expenses that no matter whether or not you get a sale, that you have to pay for them. Okay? They are separate from the expenses that have to do with doing the work, like the material, like the permits, like paying your guys out in the field, okay, the things of that nature, okay? So, how do we figure out our break-even margin? It is our estimated annual sales and our annual overhead expenses divided into each other. So, annual overhead expenses divided by estimated annual sales is going to give us what percentage of margin that we've got to put based upon the percentage of difference between these two. Let's throw this to the test. If we have somebody that has an annual overhead expense of $250,000, in this case we just said it was an electrical contractor, it could be plumbing contractor, what have you, and their estimated annual sales was $1 million, their break-even margin would be 25%. Now, I'm not going to recalculate this, I'm just going to get you to do the exercise on your end. Say our overhead expenses skyrocketed for whatever reason, and they went from $250K to $500K overhead expenses. And yet our sales didn't increase. Yeah, Houston, we've got a problem. Instead of having to put 25% on our quotes just to cover our overhead expenses, $500,000 divided by $1 million is 50%. Can you imagine that? No, that's going to be a rare thing. But you can see the impacts of your overhead expenses going up or down, and proportionately your sales going up and down. Okay, so you want to keep tracking as time goes on throughout your quarters, every 3 months, even every month. what are your fixed expenses? Are they staying within the boundaries of what your sales are, or are your sales skyrocketing, so that as the months go by, guys, you can adjust your break-even margin, because as different cycles in your business happen, so there's different break-even margins in your business. All right? Next. By the way, that's a piece of gold that 90% of contractors have no clue about. You know why? Because they don't know the break-even margin. Step number 2, determine your break-even profit margin. This is my term. Okay? Hey, this is profit for contractors. Okay? Profit for contractors doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. And why am I saying break-even profit? Because I want you to start getting in your mindset that the minimum that you've got to make is not break-even. It's the profit that you're adding to your break-even to ensure that you're profitable. Okay? So it's the same formula, but guess what we're doing? There's a $250K example, right? As far as overhead. There's the $1 million in sales, but look what we did. We added $100,000, and what's that $100,000? That's for you. That's your profit. That is allowing us that if we put $100K on that $250K, divide that into our sales, if we put a 35% break-even margin onto our quotes throughout the year, based upon those sales and based upon those overhead expenses, you're going to have $100K in your pocket. Better yet, you're going to have $100K in your business. Guys, this is one of the greatest opportunities of all time, okay, to make profit, because you guys are going to become the prize. It's the greatest exodus of businesses ever in the history of mankind, and if you leverage it properly, you can basically, have a license to print money, find the golden goose, find the gold at the end of the rainbow. The list goes on, right? So make sure that you include that, because this is going to allow you to start setting targets and ensuring that you're going to have profit in your business. The other piece of icing on this, just quickly, having a business gives us an opportunity that nobody else gets to have. Very few get to have, which is, if we leave that money in the business, we get fractionally hit on it from a tax perspective, okay? Versus, say, a salary perspective. And that allows you to leverage that much more money inside the corporation. Next, number 3. Determine your margin conversion rate. And the margin conversion rate, really what it is it makes it really easy for you to use a multiplier when you're doing a quote. Okay, so instead of making it complex, in this case, say for example in the previous example that we had a 35% break-even profit margin. What we want to do is we want to take 1 minus the 0.35, which gives us a 0.65 margin conversion rate. What does that allow us to do? That allows us to very quickly take the $1,000 cost, say that's material and labor, multiply by 0.65, and it really, really quickly gives us what our sales price is. Okay? Now, this is so important for you right now. This is one of the biggest fatal mistakes that 90% of contractors make. They don't use margin. Most contractors use what's called markup. Okay? Just to give you an example. If you didn't use the margin conversion rate formula, guys, and you just multiplied the $1,000 times the 1.35, what you'd be charging to the customer is $1,350. Meanwhile, what you should have been charging is $1,538. If you ever have gotten to the end of the year and you've put on your jobs in your mind, hey man, I put 35% on my jobs, and if you were lucky enough or efficient enough that you use the right amount of material that you quoted and the right amount of hours, and you go, what the hell, when you're sitting down with the accountant, why am I not making 35%? This is one of the core reasons. Because you're not making 35%. If you multiply that by 35, you're using what's called markup, okay? Not margin, okay? We want to use margin. And this is where it gets scary. If you use 1.35 in that example, you could be in massive trouble, because can you imagine if your gross margin was 26%? Imagine if your break even from the very original example, go back to the original page 2 pages ago, was 25% in step 2. Imagine you're charging 26%. You think you're charging 35, and your break even margin is 25%. Guys, you know it and I know it. A 1% buffer in error on a job is bullshit. Okay? We know nothing's going to go smooth on our jobs for the most part, right? You don't have that luxury just to have that tight of a gap. Okay, you've got to make sure you're adding enough buffer in place, not just to be break even, but to be profit break even. Okay, so you're making money. Okay, step number 4. This is the last step right here. Step number 4 is markup versus gross margin. So we touched on this, but what we've done is we've put together a calculator for you so that instead of you having to figure this out yourself, that you can just input your desired margin, okay, i.e. your break-even profit margin. Step 2, you'll see that the markup multiplier column, which gives us a 1.538, that was the example before, right? So if we put in 35%, that's what we want to make, desired margin. For us to make sure that we're making that, we'd have to multiply whatever our expenses are as far as labor and material by 1.538, and that in turn is going to give us our desired margin, okay? Next, we want to look at multiplying your costs, like I said, by the multiplier. And guys, it's just about making it easier, okay? We're trying to reduce the amount of steps that you use. So at the end of the day, you got to be profitable. You got to price profitably. And you got to know not just for you how to do it, but you got to systemize this so that at the end of the day, you can pass this on to other people. So your business can start running more and more without you, and that you know, even for yourself and for others, that you are pricing your jobs profitably every single time. Specific to your overhead expenses, specific to the different cycles in your business. So this is Andrew Houston from Profit for Contractors. Hope you enjoyed these tips. We will see you guys on the flip side. Please let us know what insights you got from here. Please let us know how this changed your business, and we can take your business to the next level, turning you into that champion CEO that I know you're meant to be. We'll see you there.